I asked her out. She turned me down.
Maybe she just doesn't like you.
That's a good one, Happy.
1994 is one of those years that feels like a highlight reel for 90s television. The big brands were peaking, networks were flexing, and everyone acted like the next cultural earthquake was sitting in a stack of pilot scripts. But here's the funny part. When TV is confident, TV gets reckless. In 94, the broadcast networks were juggling a weird cocktail of pressures. They wanted event dramas that looked expensive. They wanted quick-hit sitcoms that could bottle whatever vibe was hottest. And they wanted spin-offs. Because why bet on something new when you can slap a familiar label on it and call it a day? Meanwhile, Fox was still in that bold, hungry era where it would swing hard, program aggressively, and pull the plug fast if the numbers didn't show up. So today, we're rewinding to the shows that should have been something and then weren't. Some lasted a full season, but never became essential. Some got yanked so quickly, they barely left a footprint. And a few are fascinating because they weren't bad in the usual way. They were just the wrong idea at the wrong time, launched into the wrong night, or forced to be something they weren't. And stick around for the top 3, because 1994 produced a special kind of flop. The kind that looked like a sure thing on paper, then vanished before you could even learn the theme song. 10. The Martin Short Show. On paper, The Martin Short Show should have been one of NBC's easiest wins of 1994. You've got Martin Short, fresh off a decade of sketch comedy legend status, fronting a primetime sitcom built around his strengths. Fast character work, heightened bits, and that slightly unhinged, I'm charming, but I might explode energy. The setup is classic network comfort food. Marty Short is a performer trying to balance a public comedy career with the chaos of home life. If you're NBC, you look at that and think, great, we'll plug this into the schedule and let charisma do the rest. But here's what makes it such a perfect peak 90s misfire. NBC didn't just decide it wasn't a hit, it decided it wasn't even worth waiting to find out. The series premiered in mid-September 1994, and after only 3 episodes made it to air, it was already gone. Not moved to a different night. Not retooled after sweeps. Just pulled. That's the kind of cancellation that feels less like a slow fade and more like the trapdoor opening under a vaudeville act. And the sting is that the show wasn't lacking talent around him either. The cast was stacked with comedy pros, and the whole thing had that we're trying to build a real vehicle here vibe, like NBC wanted a new comedy brand and thought this could be it. The problem is, 1994 audiences were ruthless, and NBC was even more ruthless. If a comedy didn't land immediately, it didn't get room to breathe, and it definitely didn't get time to teach viewers what kind of show it wanted to be. So the Martin Short Show becomes one of the purest flops of 1994. Not a long, messy collapse, just a big, confident launch, followed by a sudden, very loud silence. 9. Muddling Through. CBS. Muddling Through is the perfect example of a summer sitcom that never got the chance to become anything more than trivia. The premise actually has the bones of a solid, character-driven comedy. An ex-con gets out, returns to her motel, and tries to rebuild a messy life in a place where everyone knows your business. That's a workable engine. You can get comedy out of small-town judgment, parole check-ins, I'm trying to be better, promises, and the everyday chaos that refuses to cooperate. But CBS aired it in that mid-1994 burn it off and see what happens zone, where networks test shows like they're trying a sample at the mall. If the audience doesn't bite immediately, nobody debates it. They just pivot. So the show's run became short, choppy, and easy to forget, which is death for a sitcom that needs repetition to build comfort. And then there's the cruelest twist. One of the supporting players was Jennifer Aniston, appearing right before she became Rachel Green on Friends. Muddling Through ends up feeling like the TV equivalent of missing a winning lottery ticket by one day. In hindsight, it's almost painful, You can practically see the alternate universe where CBS keeps it alive long enough for, hey, isn't that curiosity to turn into a real audience. But the 90s networks weren't built for patience. Not then. Not in summer. So Muddling Through becomes a textbook flop. Not because it was a disaster, but because the industry treated it like disposable packaging. 8. Hotel Malibu. CBS. If you want a perfect snapshot of 90s network decision-making, look at Hotel Malibu. It's a glossy, California luxury drama about a family running an upscale hotel. Exactly the sort of premise that sounds like it can generate endless story. Romantic entanglements, staff secrets, rich guests with messy problems, and a business that's basically a pressure cooker with room service. And CBS didn't just order it as a random new drama. It was a spin-off of Second Chances, with Jennifer Lopez even reprising her role as the hotel bartender, so the recognizable connection was already baked in. In theory, that's the cheat code. Familiarity, plus a new setting, plus summer soap energy. But Hotel Malibu has the classic spin-off problem. It inherits the idea of an audience without inheriting the audience itself. The parent show didn't create a giant loyal fan base that would follow characters anywhere. So the spin-off arrives like a sequel to a movie you didn't see. And summer viewers are ruthless. If the hook isn't immediate, they bail. It also didn't help that the show only lasted 6 episodes, airing from early August into September of 1994. That's barely enough time for viewers to learn the characters' names, let alone develop the kind of emotional investment that keeps you coming back. It's one of those series that feels like it's still introducing itself, right up until it disappears. So, Hotel Malibu lands as a flop, not because hotel drama is a bad idea, but because the network tried to sell it like a sure thing, then treated it like an experiment the moment it didn't click. 7. South Central. Fox. Here's what makes South Central such a fascinating flop. It wasn't trying to be lightweight. It was a comedy drama about an African-American family in South Central Los Angeles, built around real issues: gang violence, unemployment, school pressure, dating, fear, and hope. It had teeth. It had heart. And unlike a lot of 90s sitcoms that used serious topics as a one-week stunt, this show's entire identity was built around the idea that laughter and survival live side by side. Critically, it wasn't ignored. Some reviewers praised it for being human and funny without feeling fake, while others struggled with the tonal mix, because the show didn't separate comedy and drama into neat little boxes. That reaction is the core risk of a series like this. If the audience comes in expecting a standard sitcom rhythm, the blend can feel jarring even when it's honest. But Fox also wasn't the most forgiving home for subtle. South Central aired in spring 1994 and lasted 10 episodes. That's not enough runway for a show that's trying to teach viewers how to watch it. Comedy dramas often need time to establish the rules: when to laugh, when to breathe, when to sit in discomfort. South Central didn't get that time, so it becomes a different kind of flop. Not a failed concept, but a show that asked viewers to meet it halfway, and got canceled before enough people agreed to do it. 6. All-American Girl. ABC. All-American Girl is one of those shows that arrives carrying history on its shoulders, whether it asked for it or not. ABC positioned it as a major moment, a primetime sitcom built around Margaret Cho and a Korean-American family. That alone meant the show wasn't just being judged as, is it funny? It was being judged as, what does this represent? And who is this for? And why does it feel like that? And that's where the wheels started wobbling. Cho's comedy is sharp, fearless, and personal. But the show that hit ABC in September 1994 often felt like it was trying to sand down the edges to fit a standard network sitcom shape. Early on, the series struggled in ratings, and ABC kept tinkering, revamping focus, shifting who the show centered, and changing the balance of the ensemble. When networks start adjusting a sitcom in real time, it's usually a sign they don't fully trust what they bought. Then there's the behind-the-scenes story that became inseparable from the show's legacy. Cho has spoken publicly about intense network pressure and the personal toll it took. That kind of environment doesn't just affect a performer. It affects the entire creative atmosphere. You can feel it in how a show starts searching for a version of itself instead of confidently being itself. So, All American Girl ends up as a peak 90s misfire in the most frustrating way. It could have been a defining sitcom, but it never got the chance to be fully itself. 5. Models Inc. Fox. If Melrose Place was peak guilty pleasure, Models Inc. was Fox trying to bottle that lightning and sell it back to you with extra gloss. It was a direct spin-off that moved the drama from the apartment complex to a Los Angeles modeling agency, with Linda Gray running the show as Hillary Michaels, and the series openly chasing that expensive, unreal, scandalous vibe. And to be fair, the show didn't lack for plot. It came in hot. Big betrayals, fast romances, absurd twists, and that very 90s soap instinct where nobody has a normal conversation unless it's also a threat. That's the whole brand. Escalation. The problem is that escalation only works when the audience is emotionally anchored. Melrose had built-in familiarity and a specific ecosystem of relationships. Models Inc. tried to speedrun that connection, like it could shortcut the hard part by being shinier and louder. Even when people enjoyed the campiness, there was still a sense that it was trying too hard to match the parent series' outrageous energy, rather than earning its own identity. Ratings-wise, it never found stable ground. Fox gave it a season, but it remained an afterthought compared to the franchise's heavy hitters, and it was canceled after that single run. So Models Inc. is a classic 90s flop category, the spin-off that confuses more with better. More glamour, more shock, more scandal, without building the character glue that makes the mess worth watching. 4. Blue Skies, ABC. Blue Skies is the kind of sitcom that makes you say, "Wait, I think I remember that," even if you don't. The premise is simple. Two guys running a mail-order outdoor goods business out of a loft, surrounded by quirky coworkers and everyday adult problems. It's not a terrible idea. It's breezy, workplace adjacent, and perfectly designed for the era's young professionals trying to figure it out comedy lane. But ABC dropped it into Monday night, and it just didn't take. The show premiered in September 1994 and was gone by late October, with an episode left unaired. That's the brutal math of network sitcoms. If you don't pop quickly, you're not getting a second, maybe. And that's the real problem. Blue Skies feels like a sitcom built out of competent ingredients without a signature flavor. In 1994, viewers weren't short on fine. They were swimming in fine. They tuned in for a reason, an identity, a voice, a chemistry you could recognize in 10 seconds. The most telling part is what happened next. The creators essentially regrouped and tried again with another sitcom soon after, even reusing some cast in a similar slot. That's not shade, it's just proof of how fast the cycle was. Blue Skies wasn't hated, it was simply skipped, and for a network sitcom, being skipped is the fastest path to extinction. 3. Fortune Hunter, Fox. Fortune Hunter is a wild one because it's not just a flop, it's a flop with corporate consequences. The show was an action-adventure spy series, starring Mark Frankel as Carlton Dial, basically a handsome, gadget-assisted problem solver sent to recover high-stakes items around the world. The vibe was unapologetically old school. Cold War hangover, Bondish swagger, big Sunday night adventure energy. Fox's strategy was aggressive. Place it right after Fox NFL Sunday, expecting football momentum to carry viewers into scripted programming. In theory, that's smart. In practice, it's the TV version of trying to jump onto a moving treadmill. Sports audiences don't automatically convert into drama audiences, especially not if the show doesn't instantly feel like a must. The series was glossy and ambitious, but it never found stable ground. Fox pulled it quickly, and while more episodes existed, US audiences only saw a fraction of what was produced. The message was clear. If the numbers don't show up immediately, the show doesn't get time to negotiate. What makes Fortune Hunter such a perfect 1994 misfire is that it represents a certain kind of network confidence, the belief that a strong lead-in can manufacture a hit. Sometimes it can. But if the show itself doesn't give viewers a reason to stay, momentum becomes a mirage. Big at first glance, gone the second you try to grab it. 2. Hardball. Fox. If you ever want proof that timing can sabotage a show before it even has a chance, Hardball is your Exhibit A. Fox launched it as a baseball sitcom in September 1994, exactly when America was dealing with the MLB strike, the one that began in August and ended up canceling the postseason and the World Series. So the country is mad at baseball, and Fox is like, hey, want a cozy comedy about baseball? That's not just unfortunate. That's almost performance art. The premise centers on a struggling team and the people around it, aiming for workplace comedy with dugout flavor. And if it had launched in, say, 1991, maybe it's just another mild sitcom that hangs around for a season. But in 1994, the cultural mood around baseball was sour. The headlines were ugly, and the sport felt less like nostalgia and more like a disappointment. Even the show's timing tells the story. It premiered during the strike and disappeared before baseball could heal its own image. And because it aired on Fox, where patience wasn't exactly a core value, Hardball didn't get time to outlive its bad luck. So yes, Hardball is a flop, but it's also a case study. Sometimes a show fails not because it's the worst thing on TV, but because it accidentally becomes a reminder of whatever viewers are already irritated about. Wild Oats. Fox. Wild Oats takes the top spot because it's the purest form of 1994 flop, the young adult sitcom that never even made it to the part where people decide if they like it. Fox premiered it on September 4th, 1994, built around a group of 20-something friends in Chicago. Roommates, dating chaos, work stress, the usual, we're adults now apparently, panic. It's the kind of premise that networks have launched 1,000 times because it's easy to pitch and easy to populate with stories. The twist is who's in it. Paul Rudd, early in his career, long before he became the human embodiment of, wait, how is he not aged? That alone makes the show an interesting artifact. You watch it now and you're not even evaluating the jokes. You're playing historical bingo. But back then, Fox dropped it on Sunday night, even giving it a decent lead-in, and it still couldn't pull the numbers. And Fox did what Fox does. It bailed. The show was canceled after 4 episodes, with 2 unaired, which is basically TV's version of getting your badge revoked halfway through orientation. What makes Wild Oats the #1 flop is that it represents how ruthless the era could be. In the 90s, networks wanted the comfort of a friends hanging out sitcom, but they also demanded instant proof it was worth the real estate. If your pilot didn't hook people immediately, you didn't get time to grow, refine, or find your rhythm. You just vanished. And that's why Wild Oats wins. Not because it's the most infamous, but because it's the most 1994. Quick pitch, quick launch, quicker funeral. Conclusion. If there's a theme to 1994's biggest flops, it's this. The industry was sprinting. Networks were chasing momentum, chasing trends, chasing franchise logic, spin-offs, familiar templates, and programming tricks that looked brilliant in a meeting. Meanwhile, the audience was getting pickier, competition was getting fiercer, and the shows that did land in fall '94 helped reset expectations for what must-see even meant. And that's what makes these misfires so fun to revisit. Some were decent shows caught in bad timing. Some were concepts that needed patience no network wanted to give. Some were executive gambles that collapsed so hard they became cautionary tales. But all of them are little fossils of peak 90s TV logic, when a great lead-in and a shiny promo could convince everyone they were holding the next big thing. So if you watched any of these back then, Drop your memories in the comments. Which one deserved more time? Which one was doomed the moment it was announced? And what 1994 flop should we do a full deep dive on next?